The co-main event for next week's UFC 304 is happening next Saturday, and it's going to be Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes 2 for the interim UFC Heavyweight Championship. And yep, you heard that right. Tom is defending the interim championship since Jon Jones is the current heavyweight champ, and he's still waiting for his fight against Stipe Miocic to be booked. And believe it or not, this isn't the first time in history that an interim champion is defending their title. This has happened before with Antonio Nogueira and Barao. Those two fighters did it before, but it hasn't been done since Barao, and that was like 11 years ago. And even though it's for the interim UFC heavyweight championship, in my opinion, this is for the real heavyweight title. At least in my eyes. It features two active contenders, unlike Jones versus Stipe. I don't really consider that fight a true championship bout. Since Stipe is old, he hasn't fought for 3 to 4 years, and Jones only had one fight recently in the heavyweight division. And as far as I'm concerned, this fight between Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blaydes is for the real championship. These two fighters are the best fighters in their divisions, and I would like to mention that they're also active. They're hungry, so this is going to be a good one, man. And in case you didn't know, this is actually a rematch. Just like the main event, they're both rematches. And these two fought years ago. I think it was in 2022, but the fight only lasted about 15 seconds because Tom Aspinall suffered a freakish, scary knee injury. He tore his MCL, his meniscus, his ACL due to an awkward movement when he threw a kick. It was a freak accident, and if you ask me, it was a fluke victory. Curtis Blaydes didn't check any leg kicks to cause Tom to break or tore anything. Now it's 2 years later from that fight, and they're finally running it back, and honestly, with all due respect, I really don't see how Curtis wins this fight. And look, man, I know I'm gonna get a lot of complaints from these Curtis Blaydes fanboys saying things like, bro, what do you mean? Tom was getting tagged in that first fight, and he beat Tom Aspinall already. And yeah, I'll admit, Curtis Blaydes was landing some good shots on Tom, but come on, man, that fight was only 15 seconds long. But Tom looked like he was trying to finish that fight quickly because he was aware that he had some type of leg injury, which ultimately did cost him the fight. I feel like that's why Curtis was able to tag Tom, and honestly, we really can't use that fight to predict how this rematch is gonna go. Because that first fight was a total fluke, bro. Curtis Blaydes didn't really beat Tom Aspinall that night. Tom Aspinall beat himself because of that injury. Now, I'll take everything back if Curtis actually beats Tom in this rematch, 100%. But with the performances that Tom has been putting on lately, I don't know, man. He looks untouchable right now. In fact, he looked untouchable for most of his career, if we're being realistic. And look, man, I don't want to disrespect Curtis Blaydes, but I'm gonna be honest. He's a great fighter and all. People often criticize him, calling him the dumbest guy in MMA or a gatekeeper. But that's far from the truth. Curtis has a solid resume. He beat Mark Hunt, knocked out Alistair Overeem, knocked out JDS, and defeated Alexander Volkov, Rosenstrike, and Gelton Almeida. As Joe Rogan would say, people forget, man, how good Curtis Blaydes really is. Because as goofy as he looks, he is legit as a high-level heavyweight. No doubt about it. One of the top heavyweights in the division. Now, with that being said, this is the honest part. As good as Curtis Blaydes is sometimes, the dude doesn't rely on his wrestling sometimes. He messes up because he wants to stand and bang to prove that his boxing is good, which has cost him some serious fight, man. Like the fight with Derek Lewis and Sergey Pavlovich. In both of those fights, he could have probably won. He could have probably took them down and grinded them out for all 5 rounds. Of course it would have been boring, but he would have won. That's my point. But sometimes he just falls in love with his hands. And usually it doesn't end up well. And then he gets knocked out. And it would not surprise me if Curtis goes that route in this fight too with Tom Aspinall. Preferring to stand and bang rather than mix it up with Tom. Now I get why people are hyping this up as Tom's toughest fight yet. Because it is. Curtis Blaydes is honestly the hardest stylistic matchup for Tom Aspinall. Curtis is a well-rounded MMA fighter. He can wrestle and he can box. And in this division, you usually see a fighter can only stand and bang without any wrestling defense, or they can either grapple, but they can't stand and bang. And Curtis can stand and bang and he can grapple. So Curtis is one of the best MMA fighters in that division. But with all that being said, I still think Tom beats him easily. I think the fight is going to be interesting from a stylistic standpoint because, like I mentioned, Curtis is a good wrestler with decent hands, but he could be a bit slow and plotty. On the other hand, the interim UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall is incredibly fast. He moves like a light heavyweight. His ability to blitz in and out is amazing, and he can also grapple. However, I think the grappling will cancel out in this fight, forcing both fighters to stand and bang. And as good as Curtis's boxing is, I just don't think it's gonna hold up against Tom Aspinall's speed and his striking. And honestly, I could see Curtis getting knocked out in the first round of this fight. And look, man, besides that freak injury that Tom had in their first matchup, he hasn't lost in the UFC. In all his other fights, he's been knocking out everyone, or he's been submitting all of his opponents in the first or second round. You could probably watch all of his UFC fights in less than 10 minutes because the dude finishes his opponents so quickly. When I first heard about him, I didn't really think anything special of him, but he just keeps proving everybody wrong. But like I said, the dude just keeps knocking everybody out. I think I officially realized Tom Aspinall was the real deal when he faced Sergey Pavlovich. Look, back at that time, Sergey wasn't on an absolute tear in the heavyweight division. He was on a 6-fight win streak, destroying everybody in the first round. The guy had this Thanos vibe, you know? Like a final boss aura. He even took out Curtis Blaydes, man. And when the time finally came for him to fight Tom, I won't lie, I thought Sergey was gonna win. And boy was I wrong. Tom made that look easy. This dude was bigger than him and he had a longer reach. And Tom was just able to come inside and just drop this big Russian war tank and make him look goofy. And look, man, despite all that, Curtis isn't the best defensively. He often gets hit and it's clear he doesn't have a strong chin. I can easily see Tom Aspinall walking into the octagon and knocking out Curtis within a few minutes. It's that simple. Tom has a significant speed advantage. He's probably the fastest man in the heavyweight division, and he's not going to rush it like he did in the first fight. I think this is how the fight's going to go, okay? So Curtis is a plotter. His footwork isn't the best, and I can see Tom circling around the cage with his fast-ass footwork and landing numerous of leg kicks and eventually coming in and out to drop Curtis and knock him out. We saw Tom do this pattern in his last fight, and I believe this is likely the outcome we're going to see at UFC 304. And I also do think that Tom could take down Curtis. I don't think he's going to go that route because I think it's too risky personally, because there is a chance that it can cancel out like I mentioned earlier. The fact that Gelton Almeida took down Curtis should give Tom some confidence because Gelton is a natural 205 pounder and he managed to take down Curtis. Although he didn't do much after that, I feel like if you could take Curtis down, he'll look like a turtle on his back. Even though Gelton took him down, Curtis was able to get back up. However, if Tom can take Curtis down in the center of the cage, then I can also see a potential finish there too. But look, as much as I'm hyping Tom Aspinall, I have to be honest, the dude does have some holes in his game. Even with all those first round knockouts, he still has a flaw that Curtis Blaydes can potentially exploit. So with all that being said, Curtis does have a slight chance to win because Tom's defense isn't the best, and that has been a consistent problem in his career. Tom usually keeps his hands down with his chin high, and we've seen him get tagged because of this before. It would not surprise me if Curtis manages to crack Tom's chin when he's coming in. And look, man, as a viewer, it's frustrating to see this flaw because he hasn't tried to fix it. Just in his last fight with Sergey, he got hit with that power shot because of this, and it would not surprise me if one day he gets knocked out because of it. I think Curtis's game plan should be to try to land a power shot to drop Tom, since he tends to keep his chin up and his defense isn't the best. However, the best strategy for Curtis might be able to stretch the fight out to multiple rounds. Curtis has experience in 5-round fights, whereas Tom has only gone as far as the second round. Tom might be a very fast twitch and can start slowing down, similar to Conor McGregor. Those are the only two ways I see Curtis Blaydes winning this fight. Overall, I expect this fight to be very one-sided and for Tom to win by knockout. And I just don't think Curtis is the guy to beat him, but who knows? The sport is unpredictable, as we all know. Regardless, I'm still looking forward to this fight next Saturday. Now, I will have my full card prediction video sometime early next week, and hopefully sometime this week I can make a tier list or some type of list, maybe of the most boringest fighters. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys did, please leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and like always guys, I'll see you on my next one.